Hi, this is Wishup, and this is a card reading for the recent, it just happened yesterday, um, full moon in Taurus. It was about 1 degree of Taurus, so just barely there. And it was conjunct Uranus, so kind of surprising type stuff. Um, anyway, that full moon just happened, so this covers that period all the way through to November 7th. So the idea of that particular full moon was surrounding questions of value and valuing yourself and also valuing the things around you. It's not to be so much materialistic, like putting a price on things, but also realizing what you can't put a price on. Maybe it's your time, or maybe it's your relationships. Making sure that you're in a valuable exchange, that whatever you're having to put your time and energy and efforts into is something that you feel value from. And there's also, because Taurus is ruled by Venus, a real focus on fiscal health, physical health, and beauty. Are you surrounded with a beautiful environment? Do you feel beautiful? Do you feel healthy? Do you feel strong? Taurus is a tremendously strong sign and is a fixed sign, even a little bit known for stubbornness. So there is there's a sense of evaluating your attachment to things in your life, stubbornness around things in your life, but also, are you cultivating a good, solid sense of self worth, a beautiful life around you, the kind of fiscal health that you want? So, those would be some of the questions that you might be asking in the full moon. And because it's a culmination period with full moons, you might be asking, do I really need this thing that I bought? Should I get rid of it? Do I love this picture on the wall? Maybe I get rid of it. Like there's a sense of consolidation and culmination. So you can either see the completion of a big, beautiful project coming into reality, or you may see the need to cut out certain practical things or tangible things, material things, because they are getting in the way of your sense of self worth or your sense of beauty or your sense of a proper exchange of effort or money, that kind of thing. So it's definitely about a sense of possessiveness, but it's also about being self possessed, if that makes sense. So anyway, I got this great new deck that I'm really in love with. It's the Santa Muerte Tarot, and you can see this beautiful cover of the Holy Death. This is from the Death card, and she's got a pregnant belly and a cradle in front of her. This deck is done by artist Fabio Listrani. It's a Lo Scarabeo deck. It draws from the visual lexicon, you could say, of Santa Muerte, the cult of the Holy Death, who is, she's not so much about death, although she will cut away things that are not needed, but she's about refuge and help and protection. And she's very much a favorite of people who felt marginalized or oppressed or downtrodden, or that they had to live on the fringes of society in a not mainstream acceptable way. So she's gained a lot of popularity as that kind of figure. She's also called La Flaca because she's skinny, or as skeletons will be, or the skinny lady. She's frequently seen with a scythe and a globe and an hourglass, very much like a Grim Reaper. But among people who are adherents, she has a very motherly quality, so very much a caregiver and protector, which is not to say that she may not be demanding in ways, but very motherly, very protective, very caring. So the image of her on the cover in this motherly phase in the death card is terrific. And the artist Fabio Lestrani makes a big point of within life there is death, within death there is always life, this transitional cyclic kind of process. And I really like on the back of this box, he put memento vivere. So you may have heard of a memento mori, which is basically it would be a call to remember that you will die. But this is sort of a remember that you will live. Remember that you live. So it's a beautifully illustrated deck. I would be happy to do a deck walkthrough. So it includes the iconography of Santa Muerte. It also includes the kind of iconography that you see around Dia de los Muertos. Also a little bit the Calavera, Katrina, who's this well-dressed skeletal woman who can, certainly in the political cartoon where she became popular, can symbolize sort of this elite quality of these very high-born, well-dressed people who nonetheless were hollow inside. So that's where this image became very popular. This also includes, which is wonderful, pre-Columbian imagery, Aztec artistic motifs. So there's a little bit of everything, and it really makes for an absolutely gorgeous final product. So I'm doing a 3-card read, and then I've got these 2 little Lenormand cards because as I've been warming up this deck, I did a reading where I put the tarot cards in the Lenormand houses, and it worked really well. So I decided rather than put all of them in Lenormand houses, I would just make 2 little bookends to give some focus to the reading. So let's get started. I will hold these. King of Swords. So look at this. We've got this beautiful background. His eyes are the shape of a spade, like the card, like playing cards. Here he has a machete. He's got the uniform of a general. So he's been through the wars. He's surrounded with these flowers. And there's the notion of a very experienced, veteran person, somebody who has seen a lot, who has done a lot. I also think of this as a very Aquarian card, so it's really decisive. And that may be tied to this Taurus full moon, where you're really making decisions on things and saying what stays, what goes. Aquarius gets a lot of clarity in that area and is very able to make those kind of cuts. So I feel like with the King of Swords here, there's a sense of personal command, ownership of your own decisions, ownership of your own decision-making process, and a real understanding of what you need to cut away and where you need to cut it away. And it could be really in any area. We'll get more clarity on the areas when we get to the Lenormand and we see the other cards. But it's a very strong card to start. And it's a card of really owning, like owning the information. Like you've got this covered. You've seen a lot. You've researched a lot. You've got a grasp on the situation. I guess that's what I'd say. This is a character as the situation very firmly in his grasp. So you've got a grip on something, but what are you going to do with it? Oh, look, so here's the Four of Wands. So see, we've got this beautiful, almost like a Katrina character. She's in this, like a flower stand. So we have the idea of the Four Wands possibly being the 4 pillars that are holding up her little pagoda. And the wands in this deck will be these red, these like blooming red flowers everywhere. So there's a lot of red in the wands cards. And here there's the idea of this expansive flower stall with a lot of things on offer. And frequently I think of the Four of Wands as sort of a homecoming card, but it can also be an agreements or exchanges, negotiations kind of a card. So you could be expanding your family in, some people think of the Four of Wands as a wedding card, and I think of it that way too, in terms of maybe expanding your family through negotiations and agreements, an agreement to marry, an agreement to share your lives. It can also be a very nice card if you're making new business arrangements. There's really the idea, this Jupiterian idea of expanding prosperity. Like we just get a greater sense of fullness and the sense that we have all these sort of tiers. It's not a shortage of things to offer. We have all these tiers of offerings, and she's got a little bit of everything. Like here's, some bottles of things, and here's some, looks like candles, and also plants. There's like, she's kind of got the whole thing going, which is sort of interesting because it reminds me a little of the Magician card, where you have all of these tools and resources. So this is definitely an expanded, I would say, an expanded cupboard of resources, and it could be an expanded set of ambitions. So this could be interesting within the idea that we've been developing new sets of dreams and wishes and wants, and realizing that our old dreams aren't a good fit for us anymore, and we have new dreams. And those expanded dreams, this expanded cabinet of dreams, may mean that you're going through the inventory of the things that you're spending your time and your efforts on, and you're getting very decisive, like, ooh, that's part of the old. That's part of the old. It's not part of the new. That's part of the old inventory. That's not part of my new line of things that I'm marketing. That's not part of the new family, the new arrangement, the way forward, because you're trying to set up with fours, right? You're always trying to set up a good foundation. So this is setting up a good foundation for your ambitions, right? So you can hear she's setting up shop. So think about setting up shop for your own future. What is the way that you need to do that? And you may need to be very decisive about that. But you also, because it's Aquarius and it's a futuristic looking card, it's forward looking, and this king has great foresight. You're sort of stocking your pantry for the future, your future dreams and ambitions and wishes and passions. And you're being very discerning about what the future may bring and what you're going to need and what you're going to take care of. I like this combination because it's got that mix of passion and enthusiasm and warmth that you see with the Four of Wands, with that very decisive, hard hitting, analytical sense of the King of Swords, which I think for anything that you're trying to be involved in is a great combination. Very clear eyed, but with a nice warm heart. So I think that's great. So let's go into the third card here. Okay, Eight of Pentacles. I have to tell you that I have been using this deck only for a short time, and this card comes up and up and up and up. As does in the other readings I've been doing over the last couple of days, the Eight of Pentacles in the traditional deck. Now, when you look at the traditional Rider-Waite deck, for example, and a number of clone decks, you'll have somebody working, a craftsman or an artisan working at their trade. And frequently there'll be multiples of the things they're working on. So it looks like they've been perfecting their skill over time. They've been developing and gaining mastery. It can be a card of either the master or the apprentice, but it's that idea that you learn by doing and you gain mastery. So here we have the Eight of Pentacles, which can also be a card of gaining mastery. What is interesting about her is she's not at a workbench, but she looks absolutely delighted with herself because this looks like a purse, like a little coin purse that she's got in her hands, and that's what's holding the pentacles. All of the pentacle suits are surrounded with these vines. This is kind of the visual theme that he used for pentacles, this green everywhere. So here she is, this skull with this wreath of gray and white roses, but she's holding this bag of pentacles, and she looks very self-satisfied. She looks very pleased with herself. And there is the sense that she has earned this. You know, she's gotten this, she's earned it, and she's very happy with it. So you can think of Eight of Pentacles as also being like hard-earned skill or hard-won talent. You know, this isn't something that was given to you. This is something you earned. So here she is, this earned, this figure of, I would say, earned income, but also with pentacles, because we're going to tie it back to the earth signs and to Taurus and to love and health and beauty. There's this sense of an earned stability in some area of your life. So this could be a stability in the beauty that surrounds you, stability in a home situation, because Taurus is very concerned with property and real estate matters. So there's this establishment of a system, of a process, the idea of nailing things down, the idea of getting your process refined or bulletproofing something. There's really all of that can be in this Eight of Pentacles. So there's a sense that you're really working out the kinks and you're perfecting things because you want it to run like clockwork. This is, I always think of that with the Eight of Pentacles. You want it to be able to run like clockwork. So really there's the sense that we have in this time period or near this time period, we've had this blossoming ambition. And it's an ambition that has involved other people typically, because the Four of Wands is also about often about negotiations, relationships, you know, that kind of thing. Families joining together, families expanding, those kinds of ideas. So there's this ambition that has to do not just with you, but with other people together. And it has created almost an overabundance, you might say, of dreams and possibilities. And so here you are in the center card, whittling those down to the best ones, to the most, perhaps the most profitable ones, the most likely ones, the ones that are easiest to implement, the ones that have the most long-term potential. Definitely King of Swords is about long-term potential, and Taurus doesn't want to waste its time on anything that doesn't have lasting value. And then I see here we get to this, and there's this sense of satisfaction and sureness. Like, yes, you picked the right thing. I also like the balance of suits here. We've got wands, swords, and pentacles. We're dealing with the heart, the enthusiasm, the passion, the mentality, and the analytical skills, the mental skills, visualization. And then here we're dealing with putting it into practice, like enacting it, putting in the time, and as they say, the sweat equity, and making it work. And it's really come together. It's come together in a beautiful way. So when you think of the 4 in the wands, and then we go to the 8 in the pentacles, you can see it sort of as doubling what you had. Like you've doubled your money, so to speak, or you've doubled your time, or you've doubled down on a commitment to something that you really care about, or you've created double the benefit for yourself in some way. That's kind of what I see. So let's take a look at these Lenormand cards and see what area of life might be involved in this. So I'm going to go this way. Oh, so we have the fox. Okay. So I'm just going to put it right here so you can see it's the fox. And then I'm going to pull this one out. Okay, and it's the Tower. So this is interesting. Okay. So this is kind of going in an interesting direction because often we may think of the fox as being self-employment. It, signals resourcefulness, skillfulness, cleverness, the need to really be wise with what you have, to be very agile and adaptable. And that is sort of this resourceful quality as you're just building things. And that you need to be kind of entrepreneurial. The fox is entrepreneurial. And some people will look at the fox as a sign that something is wrong in a reading. If anything were wrong in this reading, because I think it's a very positive and kind of pragmatic looking reading, I would say the problem would be at this particular point, you haven't scaled down your ambitions. So you might have ambitions, for example, in the realm of self-employment, but they might be a little bit unformed, or you just haven't narrowed down exactly what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And here there's like decision making going on. And what's interesting here is the Tower, which is a card of high position and also a card of large institutions. So we get in this position of the Eight of Pentacles in a large institution, and you think to yourself, we've sort of gone from this like scrappy little, just having to make do, having to kind of put everything together with like spit and chewing gum. And here there's a much more settled position. And it's a position that is more formalized. It's more institutional. It's got things built up around it. And the Eight of Pentacles, it does kind of make sense, because even if we think about a master or apprentice having a workshop is different than having to do all your work like in your bathtub. So even if you set up a workshop in your own home, if you formalized it perhaps as a home office, like maybe you decide you're working from home and you've just been doing the best you can, but you decide that you're going to take the legal step with the King of Swords of making it official. The Tower can be, you're making something official. And this too, actually, this Wands card can have to do with making things official. But the Tower card can be following regulations, procedures. It's a kind of an institution, like a government institution, a court, a bank, that has procedures that you need to follow. And here she is looking very satisfied with her position within this process. So you could think that maybe you're going to make your work official in some way. So maybe you decide you're going to talk to a tax professional about setting up a deduction for your home office. Or you decide that it makes sense for you after you've consulted and done research on it, because King of Swords is a very well-researched, well-grounded figure. And could represent actually an advisor. If you go to see a tax advisor or a bank advisor, financial advisor, legal advisor, could represent that kind of character, where you're taking this like, I was just kind of like having a good time with this thing, but now I'm going to make it official. I'm going to lock it down. I'm going to make it more official, and I'm going to use good advice to do that. Good foresight. I'm going to use these ideas of regulations and rules and and I'm going to find out how to make them work for me. And here, they really look like they are working for this character. So that this idea of making it official has really, in a sense, paid off for this character. So if you think about the idea of the fox as being forever the vagabond, forever on the run, always scratching and clawing and having to hustle, like it's the ultimate hustler is the fox, like I'm always hustling. There's the idea of this person like, I can calm down a little because things are working. I've got things set up to work for me. Like, I'm earning interest while I sleep. I've got orders being fulfilled, you know, by helpers that I use. Or maybe I've set up a shipping service, or I've set up some electronic service. Since this is sort of Aquarian, maybe you've done something with software to help you fulfill orders in the middle of the night so that you're able to, process customers better or be more responsive to clients, or be anything like that, right? You can come up with plenty of examples on your own, I'm sure. But I like this idea that in this case, we're not seeing this making things official as it's not a prison. The tower as this sort of limiting building, so to speak, can sometimes be seen as like the tower that keeps Rapunzel, right? It's holding her prisoner. She can't escape it. And sometimes if you're in a very large organization that you are not happy in and you want to get out, you can feel like, oh, I'm a prisoner because I've got, benefits here or seniority here, and now I'm trapped. I'm not getting that feeling here. I mean, if I try to look at this like sort of like, let me look at it in a worse light, so to speak, then I would say it is possible if I look at it in a, like, what would be the worst case scenario here? The worst case scenario, I guess, would be that we have this enthusiasm, this beginning of a beautiful business relationship, partnership, something like that, that I started on my own. And I've been hustling and building it up. And now I've come underneath the authority of the King of Swords. And now maybe I get to take my money with me, but I no longer have control because the tower is in control, right? So maybe I have to be happy with having sold my company and I have less creative input. I can't just make the changes I want to make when I make them. And the fox is related to Mercury for me, so it is a very creative card. So it could be the idea that, look, you've sold out now, and now the organization is running your creative efforts. This could turn out because, you look, and a friend pointed this out to me, how big her smile is. She's not unhappy with this deal. I feel like she's taking a deal. She's taking a deal and she's happy with it. It is going to change things. Like, you might look for things. They were more independent, perhaps, more scrappy, more DIY and do it yourself. And now they're going to be more formalized. But I think there is a return for that. There is an exchange. And that exchange is going to be in time, money, stability, beauty. It's definitely an exchange that is worth considering. It's worth your time to think about, wow, what would this mean? Because it's kind of different on these two sides, right? The two sides of this big decision, that we can think of the King of Swords as being this deciding character. We have greater financial stability for sure. We might have a kind of mastery. So maybe with the idea of apprentices, maybe we get staff. because a tower is an organization. So maybe you would be able in this new setup to have staff working for you. So you go into, instead of being in this solopreneurship over here, you go into a management position for a company and you have staff underneath you. And maybe it's going to be good pay for you. Is that going to work? Whether or not that's going to work for you and be a good exchange, whether or not you like this side of the equation better or this side of the equation better, will have a lot to do with where you are in your life. Do you need more stability? Do you need more flexibility? Where are you in terms of your commitments to other relationships? Where are you in terms of your sense of wanting to be acknowledged in the workplace, or your sense of wanting recognition? What does it mean to you to have a stable schedule versus being a solopreneur and working all the time? These kinds of questions are probably at the heart of this decision, but it's interesting because it's this flesh out of this decision that you wouldn't have to make if you hadn't done something great already. So let's just look at the bottom of the deck. Oops, I flipped this. Okay, but here we go. So at the bottom of the Santa Muerte deck, I have the Knight of Cups, which represents an offer. So this looks like you've been possibly, doing stuff on your own, or maybe even doing stuff with another partner, but in a smaller scale thing. And there's an offer. An offer comes forward. So maybe it's a buyout offer or a licensing offer or an offer to hire you, and you would stop doing this side hustle and you would start doing this formal job. So there's some kind of offer that comes through and you have to make a decision. And the decision will need to be very analytical and very based on not only where you think you're going in your future, but practical aspects that will have to do with financial aspects, legal aspects, organizational aspects, since Aquarius also deals with organizations and associations. So there's a lot that goes in here in the matter of personnel, finance, legal issues. But this offer seems to be coming or has come as part of this Taurus full moon. And it may be a surprise to you because the Taurus full moon was conjunct Uranus. So there may be this surprising offer that comes through. A surprise offer, it could be with Taurus too, it could be a surprise offer to buy your house, right? And you're like, but this is my home, because I think of this as a homecoming card. This has been my home. This has been my refuge. This has been whatever it's been. And now, but somebody's offering you a lot of money for it. And what would that allow you to do? Would it be worth it? How would that affect your surroundings, your environment, the beauty? Maybe with this, you'd buy a condo, right? Here's a tower. So maybe you go, oh, I would love to get out of this house with all the yard work because I'm seeing all the greenery, and get into a condo situation. So it could be a thing where you're looking at retirement, you're looking at downsizing. These would all be very Taurean kind of things to be thinking about. So hopefully you've hung on long enough to where I'm actually getting to all the different scenarios where it could apply. Sorry, it's long. It just sometimes takes me a while to figure out where I'm at. So let me get the bottom. Okay. The foundation card here is the moon. So when I'm looking at Lenormand and the foundation card, I'm looking at issues of professional reputation. The moon can often be a career card, so this could be a surprise career offer. But also with the Eight of Hearts, it can be a card of needing to leave behind consensus or leave behind a settled population, a settled organization. So this definitely could be the idea of moving house, but probably if you were moving house, it would be to a whole different neighborhood because you'd be leaving behind one set of things for something else that may not be totally clear. So you'll do the best you can to flesh out as much of the details and as many of the facts as you can, especially if this is a surprise offer. You may not have thought about this at all before, and then it just comes out of nowhere. And it's like, oh, hello, okay. And you have to suddenly, a phrase I use a lot is become an instant expert. You have to do a lot of research. You have to consult with people. You have to become an instant expert in command of all the circumstances so you can decide if you want to take this deal. So, I don't know, it sounds pretty exciting to me. I hope it will be exciting for you. It does seem very material, real estate, professional associations, organizations. It definitely seems tied to that kind of thing. So I will be interested. Please let me know in the comments how you think it applies to you, if it applies to you. And I, as always, appreciate very much. If you liked the video, please give it a like. That's great. I would love it if you subscribed, but only if you're feeling it. And until the next time, and I will do some kind of a Halloween reading, possibly with these cards, maybe with the Trick or Tarot. But anyway, until next time, rock on with your bad selves.